Good morning. This is Real with Robo. I'm wondering something. 2 days ago, the video that was seen of Jacob Blake was spread like fire all over the internet. On the same day, probably around the same time, in South Carolina, a college student and stepdad were killed, and another person was wounded after a minor fender bender in South Carolina. The two people that were killed were Laura Ashley Anderson and Charles Nicholas Wall. The one that was wounded was Paul McConnell. Now, the gentleman who is alleged to have done this crime is Tysheem Walters III, 23 years old. The young lady was 21 years old. Walters allegedly rear-ended Wall, that was the stepfather, as he was going to give his stepdaughter keys, Miss Anderson, to her new home in Georgetown. That is where she was going to start her life, her first home. Walters then ran into the back of Mr. Wall's car as he was going into the driveway. Now, it was a minor fender bender, and Walters then shot both the stepdad, Charles Nicholas Wall, and the daughter, Laura Ashley Anderson, and then shot at Paul McConnell, hitting him in the wrist. After the shooting, Walters ran on foot and basically disappeared into, the world. And then later that day, he was seen to be walking along the highway. After a foot chase, he disappeared into a wooded area, and at around 5:30 p.m., the canine units were called in to find him, and the cops apprehended him. Walters is now charged with 2 counts of murder, 1 attempt murder, and illegal possession of a firearm. This happened 2 days ago, you guys, and it was just updated 4 hours ago. Now, these people that got shot and killed, and the person that got wounded, doesn't fit the narrative, except for one thing: they were white. And again, the alleged perpetrator was black. And yet, the media ignores this, except for like Fox News and the internet, as far as little tiny nibbles here and there. But the general media doesn't even inform on this. I just wanted to make a quick video to show that two days ago, when a quote-quote innocent criminal was paralyzed by cops. And yes, he had a knife, so please bypass me with that. They tried everything in the book first, and then went to their guns when they saw he had a knife. And I am assuming that the cop that shot him saw that he had a knife, because where he was standing, you could literally see in the car. And where the knife was found, which was on the floorboard of the driver's seat, would be where his hand would come to rest if he got shot, leaning over the driver's seat, getting to the passenger seat. So bypass me with that mess. Now that caused riots. That caused the burning of a city. That caused everybody to go crazy. And yet, the cop that shot him, who was white and he was black, responded to a life-threatening danger. So yes, I do believe the cop was innocent. He may not have had to shoot him 7 times, but we don't know the situation on that. Guy could have been on drugs or drunk or whatever, and it needed 7 shots to put him down. The fact of the matter is that that same day, 3 innocent people were shot. 2 of them died. And the media has nothing to say about that, and social media has nothing to say about that. When all that happened was an innocent fender bender, which probably would have been like, oh, there's just a little dent on my car, no problem. Because most of the time, white people, I'll give you this insight, we don't trip about a little tiny dent in our car. And now we find out that the alleged perpetrator shouldn't have had a gun. Why did he have a gun? Possession of an illegal firearm. Why did he have a gun? That means one thing. He may have been a violent criminal or have gotten it from the streets. Either way, it was illegal. And 2 innocent lives, actual innocent lives, were taken. And 1 was wounded. But he'll be traumatized for the rest of his life because of what happened right in front of him. The media, the social media, has nothing to say about that. However, a quote-unquote innocent criminal that was where he shouldn't have been because of probably a restraining order for domestic violence, a violent criminal known to threaten people with guns and fight the cops, and that day went where he wasn't supposed to be. And when the cops arrived, he didn't do what he was told, and he had an open warrant. And he fought with the cops. They tried to taser him. They tried to do everything in their power to nullify the situation. And he went into his car to get a knife. And that's when he was shot. Yet you could set the world on fire for that innocent criminal. But you can't tell these people's story who are truly innocent. Now granted, they may have had a little argument, but is an argument over a little dent really seriously worth losing your damn mind and killing 2 people and wounding another? And he knew he did wrong. Why? Because he fled the scene. And then when cops tried to arrest him, he fled them, and it took a canine to bring him to justice, allegedly. Alleged justice, because he still has a right to innocent until proven guilty. Yet we hear nothing about that. But we hear about an innocent criminal fighting with the cops, being somewhere he shouldn't have been, a violent domestic criminal that had an open warrant out on him, a felonious sex offender, a person who literally fought with the cops, and the cops still had the wherewithal to use every other option before shooting him, and only shot him because he was reaching for a knife. And people say that the cops are bad because there were kids in the car. Well, you know what? Maybe Mr. Innocent Criminal should have thought about that before he went into the car and put those children's lives in danger. But y'all don't think about that, right? And the media and social media can't actually put out two innocent people. Why? Because they were killed by a black man. And they were white. So apparently they got what they deserved. Yet the innocent criminal, oh, the police were in the wrong. Why? Because the police were white and he was black. Because these victims were white and the alleged perpetrator is black. And yet we don't hear a peep from Sean King or anybody like that about praying for these two's family, their loved ones, and the injustice and inequality of social media and the media when it comes to white people being gunned down for no reason, just like with Cannon Hynek. Not a damn word about that. But an innocent criminal, oh my God. Burn down the town, riot, loot, get your reparations. This man was going to give his stepdaughter the keys to her home, her first home, where she would start out her life. And her life, his life, were taken, and another person's life was traumatized. And he was wounded. But not one damn mention. And see, I'm not trying to make this a national thing. But you say there's any injustice, inequality, racism in America? Tell me why 2 days ago this wasn't spread across the social media like wildfire. This wasn't put in all the daily newses. Why? Because an innocent criminal, their lives are worth more than 3 innocent people. No, wait, I'm not being real. Black lives are worth more than white lives. There's injustice, inequality, and racism in America. And it's against white people. And that's real with Robo. Y'all disgust me. To the families of Laura Ashley Anderson, Charles Nicholas Wall, and Paul McConnell, the victims in this case, I pray for God to grant you with comfort and justice. And I pray for the safe and speedy recovery for Mr. McConnell. And I pray that one day people will stop making criminals' lives worth more than innocent civilians' lives. And that's what's going on in the riots. People's lives are being lost. People's livelihoods are being lost. Things are being destroyed. All in the name of criminals. Yet you won't even feature 3 completely innocent people. I'm not going to say it may have not had an argument, but that's when fisticuffs should have been brought out, since, hey, instead of shooting him, why don't you just bring out the fisticuffs? Well, instead of shooting these 2 innocent people and wounding a third one, why didn't he bring out the fisticuffs? That weapon was illegal. He had it illegally. And yet no mention of this in social media. Barely any mention in the media. But yet you will burn down the town and kill other innocent people, all in the name of a criminal, a violent, sexual offending felon. Because the alleged perpetrator in this story was black. The alleged victim, innocent criminal, was black. You can't report when the victims are white, or when the innocent criminals are white. But God granted you'll burn down a town, destroy livelihoods, and kill people because they're black. I'll never understand it. And that's Real with Robo.